Light the fires.
What if I told you that Ahsoka Tano in The Mandalorian, or her own TV show, couldn't be criticized for bad writing? What if my reasoning was that Ahsoka Tano was created by David Filoni and written by him in these later entries, and therefore it's stupid to imply that she was in any way badly written? How could a creator of a character do a bad job writing their own character? If you think this is cope, you're absolutely right.
SK, you crying about a character being character assassinated from the guy who created the character is stupid. You would know it's stupid if you actually read any of the source material of the character you base your entire identity on.
This is a real thing that a human being was compelled to write in defense of something. Do I need to explain myself, or is the problem self-explanatory? You know, maybe it's unfair to call this a bad point, since it was said by the guy who created the point. Now, to be clear, I don't think merely defending this game is coping. I really don't mind if you do, and you're well within your right to talk about why you think something is good. My pal Spiderdunk over on YouTube is decently defensive of this game, but he's just voicing his earnest beliefs. He's not someone who's trying to cope their way through an argument, not unlike certain other people. So counter that.
My counter is that you have a stupid reading of the game. Like, I don't...
That's not a counter, you dumbass!
That's not a counter, dog.
Yes, I want you to answer
I
why you
tried
think a
to-
character is in character when you're insisting they're in character. Yes.
I think you should find a 2mm shotgun.
Oh,
And I
really?
think you
We're
should
going that
fucking-
far, huh?
My boy.
Over
Really?
fucking
boy.
media
Really,
discussion?
my
You're
boy.
that fucking petty?
Spiderdunk even came out and said this is a bad point to make in response to people criticizing Edge of Time. Now, why might he feel compelled to say this? Well, before we dive into this, if you're curious to hear criticism towards the game's story, I've got a whole video talking about it, which I'll link in the description. Bro doesn't know it's written by Miguel's own creator. Yeah, because I'm sure it creates a great precedent to imply that creating a character means you could never write the character poorly.
Got a mind of the true scholarship.
Arguing that Peter is out of character because he wasn't cool with letting MJ die. Well, that's a little unfair. If you read what Kairito said, you'd clearly see that his problem boils down to neglecting the importance of innocent people just so he can keep his loved ones safe. If Spider-Man believes in great responsibility on a basic level, he would never stay in 2099 and ignore billions of strangers just because that might keep his loved ones safe.
What if we use it to cure someone right now?
Then there won't be enough to cure the others.
You're saying the lives of a billion strangers are more important than my loved ones?
And in the context of the scene where they learn MJ dies, Miguel brings up that the future depends on their mission.
You're the one who doesn't get it, Parker. The future depends on...
Instead of addressing Miguel's concerns for the fabric of reality, Peter ignores this by appealing to how this would affect his future,
My future is meaningless without her.
which further proves that he's just fighting for himself. He's willing to put the entire universe at jeopardy just to save MJ's life,
You're saying the lives of a billion strangers are more important than my loved ones?
even though she can't die at Alchemax anyway if it's written out of the timeline as Miguel was planning to do with the Gateway.
It's changed. Everything's changed. It started back then. Back around Peter Parker's time. He can't fix it. Because he's gonna be dead. This has to work.
I work for Alchemax. You're saying that's somehow wrong?
Completely. At this point in time, you earn a living taking news pictures for J. Jonah Jameson.
What happens if you do?
Then the backlash should collapse the quantum bridge and overwrite all of this, wiping it from existence.
If the timeline collapses as Miguel implies, MJ's going to die anyway. There's so much going against Peter's decision to risk all of reality just to save MJ, who's going to live anyway if he does the mission with Miguel. People keep bringing up the comics as if this saves the writing of the game, but honestly, that just makes it even worse. Out of the hundreds of issues for Spider-Man, I'm just gonna read this off from Amazing Spider-Man issue 50. No matter how unbearable the burden may be, no matter how great my personal sacrifice, I can never permit one innocent being coming to harm because Spider-Man failed to act, and I swear that I never will. This sounds like the guy who would make the biggest sacrifices if it meant saving everyone else, not the guy who would let billions of people suffer or die just to keep his loved ones safe. And what's even better is that the thing that got Peter to go back on his decision to quit was seeing a random stranger in danger. Not a loved one of his, just some random guy. He naturally couldn't accept the outcome of someone being put in danger with nobody to help. This game even implies that the death of Gwen Stacy happened, which is a consequence of a supervillain learning Peter's identity and targeting his loved ones. Although this made Peter consider quitting for a brief moment, he still continued to be Spider-Man anyway because he sees it as his responsibility to help people, while knowing that his loved ones will have to pay the price. Even in the heat of anger, he stopped himself from killing the Green Goblin, despite the fact he still has his identity and could tell the world if he wanted to, and thus put his family in danger again. Knowing this, Peter still spared him. He doesn't drop his principles just to help his loved ones. Does it really make sense for a character like this to plan to stay in 2099 forever and refuse to do good for billions of people just to protect his loved ones? That sounds antithetical to his character and the ways he developed over the years. You're saying the lives of a billion strangers are more important than my loved ones does not fit for a Spider-Man that is experienced. It fits for a Spider-Man who didn't lose Uncle Ben yet, since he voices a very similar sentiment in his origin. I'll see to it that they're always happy, but the rest of the world can go hang for all I care. And even when Peter considers quitting, this is under more extreme circumstances. Like when he questions if any part of him was Spider-Man for the thrill of the battle and thirst for power, which could corrupt him and therefore make the city worse off because of it. Or when Gwen literally died and he thought he was going to lose everyone else. Now compare that to Peter's reasoning in Edge of Time.
Come on, O'Hara. It's not like Anti-Venom was a fluke. Someone's always trying to kill me, and there's always a chance of my loved ones being caught in the crossfire. If I stay here, no one I love will suffer or die because of me.
So Peter's sole reason for leaving his world forever and not helping billions of people is that a supervillain attacked him one time and his loved ones might suffer from the next supervillain attack. Even though Gwen Stacy died and he still continued to be Spider-Man anyway.
O'Hara, if you don't get that I can't turn my back on danger, no matter what the cost, then you've got no business calling yourself Spider-Man.
Strange, there have been so many times when I wanted to give up my Spider-Man role, so many times when I felt I've had it with costumes and crusading, but something always stopped me from finally copping out. I used to think that I was scared, afraid to face the world as plain Peter Parker. Now, after all these months, I know the truth. The real reason. My spider power did more than increase my strength. It also increased my longing for justice, and my loathing for cruelty and crime. At last, I realize I'm the luckiest guy in this whole, wide, wonderful world. Most people wish they could help their fellow man, but this old web-swinger has the power to do it. Somehow, somewhere, someone with far greater power than I managed to put it all together, and I swear to be worthy and be grateful for the rest of my life. So heads up, heroes, Spidey's here to stay. This is Amazing Spider-Man issue 200, which is 10 issues before he even meets Madam Web, someone he's already familiar with in Shattered Dimensions, which is prior to Edge of Time. This means that many issues after Gwen died, he still chose to be Spider-Man, knowing that his loved ones would still be at risk as a result. You can't convince me that an experienced comic Spider-Man would ever think to stay out of his world forever and leave billions of people behind, just because a supervillain under mind control attacked him once, and didn't even harm his loved ones in the process. And you cannot convince me that he would actually think his loved ones would matter more, above all else, than billions of people, so much that he would risk the fabric of existence just to save MJ, when MJ would die anyway if reality is destroyed, but would live anyway if Miguel finishes his mission of ridding Alchemax from Peter's time.
Spider-Man Edge of Time sucks, but watch the whole video. And Peter wants to selfishly stop that whole mission right there and go save MJ because he saw that she was about to die. You even know the slightest bit about Spider-Man. That is not Spider-Man.
If you know the slightest bit about Spider-Man, you know that Spider-Man is very selfish, bro.
Okay, so we already have a problem. The game doesn't frame Peter's decision as the wrong decision. The game celebrates it when Miguel saves MJ, and glosses over the fact they nearly caused the destruction of the universe just to save her from an event that's being overridden from existence anyway.
I hope the universe doesn't end while I'm trying to save one person.
You're as brave and unselfish as another guy who goes by the handle Spider-Man. You're a worthy successor to the name.
If Peter's being selfish, the game should acknowledge that and present him as in the wrong. That's not what the game does, nor do the people who present the scene as what Spider-Man should be. And as I showed earlier, Peter's selfish desires do not outweigh his sense of responsibility.
Peter Parker is not a perfect character. He's a man with many flaws. One of his biggest ones being that he's selfish. He will do whatever it takes to save his loved ones over others. That's just like...
No matter how great my personal sacrifice, I can never permit one innocent being to come to harm because Spider-Man failed to act. I mean, if that's not enough for you, take a look at this panel from Maximum Carnage right here, where he prioritizes public safety over his own safety and what his loved ones would want.
That's just how it is, man. If you can save him, he will try to save him. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 128, Peter says, word for word, if you help guys like him with your silence, then there really isn't very much difference between a murderer and those who merely stand by and do nothing.
Okay, then there's no difference between Edge of Time Peter and someone like the Kingpin, who actively endangers an entire universe just for his selfish desires. Your example from Amazing Spider-Man 128 doesn't help Edge of Time Peter. That just makes it worse, because the point Spider-Man is making is that you might as well have done the murder if you knew and didn't actively do anything to prevent it. So if Peter doesn't actively prevent the universe's collapse just to save MJ, well, he might as well have murdered the entire universe just to save MJ, who's dying with the universe anyway.
Now, the context is this woman withheld information that could have, helped Peter stop the Vulture before doing heinous things. The ideology of Spider-Man is that if you can try to save someone, then you do it.
Correct. The same should extend to the fabric of existence.
I have another example. Peter is chasing down a criminal. He stopped 3 out of 4 of the criminals. He let this one go because he wants to go check up on man. He's selfish. He said, let the cops handle him. I already got 3 out of 4 of them. Let the cops handle him.
The situation you presented was that he already took out 3 out of 4 of them, and it's not like he straight up didn't care. He informed the police where the last one must have been, and they had the area surrounded. It's a matter of waiting for one guy to turn up. And you're leaving out something really important. He wants to check on Aunt May because she was almost killed minutes ago. That was the whole reason he spotted those criminals to begin with. He wants to check on Aunt May's well-being because she's old and she's frail, and this could cause serious health issues for her. This has literally happened before in the comics, where Aunt May has been ill, and that sudden shocks or excitement alone could be fatal. Peter sees it as a huge risk to Aunt May's life to constantly put her under stress, and right now, he's the only one who can alleviate that. Meanwhile, the criminal is surrounded by a bunch of cops who can still handle him. This isn't selfish.
I gotta go check on Aunt May. Bro, he's selfish. He doesn't care, bro. And that's okay.
If he didn't care, he wouldn't have made sure the police were handling it.
No one is saying it's a good thing. That's a character flaw that he has, bro. Peter Parker isn't perfect. That's how it is. What makes it even worse is the fact that if the fabric of reality dies, MJ's gonna die anyway. But if they go with Miguel's plan, MJ will get saved anyway. Again, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, these two major factors that completely defeat Peter's reasoning just doesn't matter.
If you can, it's the ideology of that. If you can save someone, you try to do it. That's how Peter is.
That doesn't address what Colin brought up. Colin brought up that MJ would be saved anyway, since the events at Alchemax are being overridden out of existence anyway, and that's what they use the Gateway Room for at the end. And if the fabric of reality gets destroyed, MJ dies anyway. Why are we ignoring this? What's the dilemma at this point? What merit does Peter's side have if any merit you can appeal to applies to Miguel, and Miguel's plan is less risky? What's the dilemma?
And anyways, I doubt he'd want to rely on that.
If Miguel's plan fails, all of existence is destroyed, MJ included. If Miguel's plan succeeds, Alchemax is ridden out of Peter's time, and therefore MJ can no longer die at Alchemax. There's no dilemma at that point. Do Miguel's plan. There's no justification to go against it.
Miguel is also character assassinated. Miguel gives up his whole position to stop the fabric of reality from shutting down, just off what Peter just said. This man knows the fabric of reality is about to shut down, and still goes along with what Peter says. That whole speech of Miguel just saying he's got enough on his plate, he's got enough to worry about, and Peter just shutting him down, that's not how you think, bro. That was Peter's great power, great responsibility speech that Miguel never had, because Miguel never really had an Uncle Ben to give him that speech. It's called character development, bro. It's just not it's not character assassination, it's character development.
So character development is when you knowingly risk the fabric of reality being destroyed just to save one person that'll be saved anyway if the mission is done? Also, why does Miguel need character development? I thought you said Peter was selfish for what he's doing. So in what way is Miguel growing by giving in to Peter's selfish demands? How does following someone's selfish demands while risking everyone else's future teach you responsibility?
Monkey Loki winning? Because I know Spider-Man. I know Spider-Man. As soon as you said that Spider-Man isn't selfish, that's not Spider-Man, you already lost. Best believe I'm saving MJ over a billion lives too, bro.
So would you have preferred it if Spider-Man PS4 had it so Peter saved Aunt May while the rest of the city suffers? I'll at least give credit to this person for actually trying to engage with the arguments and the points. I just found these defenses interesting enough to respond to, and by the end of their back and forth, he was a good sport about it. So I don't think this person is coping like the Next set of responses we're going to be looking at. Saying a character assassinates Peter and Miguel when it's written by one of the best writers for Peter and the creator of Miguel, Sob. It's really funny that this is the most common counterpoint I've seen from Edge of Time fans. I'm not saying most of the fan base is like this, but that's most of what I've seen. If you can't defend the writing itself and have to appeal to who wrote it, that doesn't show us you have confidence in the writing. Watch this. He's gonna say, the creator of Miguel O'Hara wrote the story. I'm sure the literal creator of Miguel O'Hara knows how to write his own character. You know what's funny? Every character in existence has an original writer, so this implies that as long as the original writer stays on the writing team, the character can never be badly written. I have enough confidence in people's intuition to not explain why that sets a bad precedent. Canon Spider-Man versus Fanon Spider-Man. I find this image really funny because I've seen a lot of people use Miguel in the comics and Edge of Time to bring down the version in Across the Spider-Verse. I haven't seen one compelling argument against this character in that movie, so maybe this will deliver. Has emotion versus emotionless. Alright, I'm just gonna play a few scenes in the movie. It should be self-explanatory from there.
Yeah. Well, join the club. Because I broke it once myself.
At least a version of me was.
But I was wrong. Miles, we all want to live the life we wish we had. Believe me, I have tried.
You can't ask me not to save my father.
I'm not asking. Sorry it had to end like this, kid.
If you don't think Miguel has emotion in that movie, rewatch it. I don't know, that's all I'm telling you. Isn't 7 feet tall. Okay. Isn't some crazy armored suit and it's just a Halloween costume versus weird nanotech. I'm sorry, nanotech is weird to you in the year 2099. We're making the tech bad argument for the year 2099. And by the way, Miguel's suit in the comics isn't just some Halloween costume. You left out the part where it's made of unstable molecules fabric that protects his suit from being ripped apart so easily, like we see with Peter Parker's classic suit. He blatantly says it's hard to destroy even if he wanted to. Isn't racist versus is racist somehow. Where are you getting that from? There are genuinely fans who think Miguel is racist. So because an extremely small minority of fans think Miguel is racist in Across the Spider-Verse, Lord and Miller apparently don't care about the characters they're adapting? Is this a joke? Can I find the tweet where this person clarifies that this is a joke? 1, I think he's supposed to be an allegory for racism against Miles. 2, fans have just come up with the idea that he's racist. Let me get this straight. You actually think that Miguel in Across the Spider-Verse is an allegory for racism against Miles. So you're serious with including that point on the list? How did we get here? Smartass versus can never have fun. Okay, well, if it's my job to stabilize the multiverse, and I'm gonna be under constant stress recruiting and leading hundreds of spider people to do it, it's gonna be pretty difficult to live a fun life, especially since Miguel has been drawn away from having the life he wishes he had because of the trauma of losing his daughter, has morals and goals other than saving the multiverse versus only caring about the multiverse. You didn't pay attention if that's what you think. You do realize that the point of just pushing Miguel to recruit Gwen was to show that Miguel is still a hero deep down. Miguel considers it a risk, but he also has a heart, which is why he hesitates then brings Gwen along so she has somewhere to belong. And while he's rude to Miles when he's angry and stressed that an entire universe could die, when actually explaining to Miles that his father has to die, he does show compassion.
I'm sorry, Miles.
He apologizes to Miles and tries to be understanding instead of just berating him. He even looks sad for Miles. Look at his face. But sure, he only cares about the multiverse and is emotionless. It's funny that this is said, but then it's brought up that he has a dead daughter, proving that he actually does have goals and values outside of protecting the multiverse. I thought it was universally agreed upon that story-wise, this game was amazing. It had comic book writers on the creative team. Oh, so because comic writers worked on the game, I'm supposed to pretend that this makes the writing good. Genuinely, what are these standards people hold stories to? Is it that surface level that someone's name being attached to a story makes it well written in your eyes? All-Star Batman and Robin is a masterpiece because Frank Miller wrote it, and he made Batman Year One in The Dark Knight Returns, The Dark Knight Rises is well written because it had the same writers as The Dark Knight. The Star Wars prequels can't be badly written because George Lucas wrote them when he created the Star Wars franchise and wrote the original trilogy. How can Rose Tico be poorly written by Rian Johnson if Rian Johnson created the character? How can Abby from The Last of Us 2 be badly written if she was written by the creator of her character? Incredibles 2 is amazing because it has the same writer as the first movie. Toy Story 4 is amazing because it has the same writer as the first two movies. Endgame is amazing because it has the same writers as Civil War. The shit I took this morning can't smell bad because I made it. Anyway, I've had my fun for the day. Just as a reminder that you're free to come on to Disagreement Day if you disagree with anything said about the story. We do these every week or so. Hop on if you actually want to talk about the story instead of telling me who wrote the story. But yeah, that's all I got. And if you think I'm wrong in this video, just remember that I created it, and therefore you can't criticize it. Goodbye.
Goodbye.